Well, hello, welcome everyone to Latinidad Posadas. Mental health is a priority, and I am here with Rocio Perez, Señorita Unstoppable. Hola, Rocio, how are you doing this morning?
Muy buenos días. I am amazing. So excited to be here and touch such an important topic in our comunidad, Oscar. Something that we really need to talk about, bring it out to the forefront, and really embrace our humanity.
You know what? You're right, Rocio. And this is obviously the holiday seasons, which is the happiest time of the year, right? Christmas and just the holidays,
Se
New
dice.
Year's, around,
Right.
right? But it's also a time where there is a tremendous amount of stress, a lot of anxiety, and particularly within the our Latinx community. And as I was personally thinking about this topic, I mean, the mental health is certainly something that um, has affected my family. For me personally, and just my family in general. In fact, I remember my mother for a long time did not have health insurance, and she was just, at least not knowing. Okay, now I know, but back then I didn't know. She was just very moody, and as we say in Spanish, bien corajuda, or this and that. And she was just, and what it came down to it is my mother actually suffered from depression, and like I said, she did not have health insurance, so she relied on public health services, the county health services. And I mean, you went to the county hospital, and I wouldn't even say you have to be on your deathbed. I mean, you pretty much have to be probably in your last heartbeat before they even take you in.
Right.
And my mom, I would go with her because I was her translator, and she would see the doctor. And usually, it wasn't the doctor that she would see; it was a resident doctor, right? And then the actual doctor would come in probably for maybe 3 minutes, just kind of overall assessment type of thing, and give her some medication. And then the doses wasn't really helping my mom, and my mom would have to wait 30 days or longer for the next appointment. And over time, I came to realize that when you're on medication, you need that constant, frequent interaction with your doctor to be, adjusting medication. And anyways, just these experiences that my mom went through, right? And I think it's a lot similar experience that many in nuestra comunidad experience.
And I think sometimes, Oscar, I personally, I didn't have any idea what mental health was about. Like nobody in my familia ever spoke about it. And I remember when I was 25, Oscar, I had like the hardest year ever. In a period of 6 months, I was in a head-on collision. I lost my grandmother, who I had barely known for just less than a handful of years. Creo que la conocía 3 años, and I had looked for her my entire life. There was suicide, there was death, there was so much. And I slowly started spiraling downhill. Y no sabía, like nadie sabía cómo ayudarme. Like nobody knew how to help me, right? And I could imagine it, like throughout the years, I've been hearing how people have been getting help. And I'm like, wow, like in mi familia, we never talked about such an important topic. And I felt
Hmm.
like I lost a part of my life, i.e., because I didn't know there was help. And today I do. And that's really what we're bringing out here to the forefront, to have esa plática auténtica. This is part of our life, and it should be part of our familia. And it should be everyday conversation to know, ¿estás bien? Hay algo que te pueda ayudar. And just like we get up in the morning and take care of our overall health, los levantamos, los bañamos, we're taking care of ourselves. Our mental health is as important. And especially during this time of the year where there may have been a lot of loss throughout the year in many different forms.
Yes. Yes. No, absolutely. Well, we are happy. Thank you, Rocio, for sharing that personal story there. And folks, we are thrilled to bring you some incredible speakers today, some professionals that are going to be touching on some very important topics and so I'm going to turn it over to I think we'll turn it over to Angelica, which I call Angelica my Wizard of Oz, because she's always
Yes.
behind the scenes taking care of things. And so, Angelica, you are going to be running the show here for us today. So why don't you go ahead and introduce our first speakers and topic?
Of course, about time I have some control here.
Right?
Let me go ahead and add our speakers onto here. Give me just a second, because let's get the people of the hour up here, the real people who will be talking today. Awesome, got you all up here. Okay, let me go ahead and give everyone a small introduction here before we get into this amazing panel. So today I have with me Adriana Rosales. She is a 7-time author and has been featured as one of Forbes' expert panelists and is a Forbes Coach Council member. Her most recent book, American Girl Short Stories on Politics, Religion, and Latinidad, will be launching in the summer of 2022. In this book, she explores the most controversial topics of our time and puts into play everything she's learned as a leadership coach and entrepreneur. With us also is Dr. Lisette Sanchez. She is a bilingual and bicultural licensed psychologist, coach, and speaker based out of Southern California. She is the founder of Calthea Wellness, a virtual practice providing individual therapy, coaching, and mentorship services. And with us as well is Hilda McClure. She's a licensed professional counselor associate who specializes in working with children, adolescents, and young adults. Hilda's passion for teaching elementary school students drove her to pursue avenues to help children and youth overcome traumas and mental health challenges. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Adriana.
Thank you so much, Angelica. This is an exciting conversation. Primeramente porque clearly we need to have this conversation in our community, and I was delighted when Oscar brought it up, and I said, oh my goodness, es tiempo, no es tiempo to have this conversation, and especially with this amazing panel. And I want to start off with asking the bigger question. So before we get into it, let's discuss the topic about mental health. What is it? Because I had first heard the term 10 years ago. I didn't even realize that this was something. And I believe that it has something to do with the fact that I'm Latina, and it just was never discussed. And once I got a grip on what mental health was, I realized that, oh my goodness, my entire family in my close units, everybody had some type of mental health issue, from alcoholism to schizophrenia to bipolar to severe depression, and the list can go on and on just within my family. And I'm happy, like I said, that we're having this conversation now. So let's start with that particular question. What is mental health? And Dr. Lisette, if you can guide us on what your take is on when we talk about mental health, what is it that we're specifically talking about?
Yeah, thank you so much, Adriana. And yes, and such an important question. It's so important to think about, what is mental health? What does this mean? And you mentioned that your family experienced a few different challenges. And oftentimes that's what we think of. We think of the bigger challenges. We think of depression. We think of severe anxiety. We think of schizophrenia, alcohol, substance use. But with mental health, it also comes down to stress management, how you manage the day-to-day challenges that you experience and the wellness around that. It's really holistic. We do so much to take care of our bodies. We exercise, and it's so important to do that for our minds. We live in an environment where we have so many responsibilities, so many obligations, and especially now when we're connected with social media and with everything, we might feel pulled in so many different directions. Work-life balance is part of mental health and wellness and finding that. And so just to get us a little bit started, I love to destigmatize it, and I love to challenge that, mental health no es cosa de locos. Mental health is for everyone. Mental health is when I wake up and I have the blues because it's a little bit of a rainy day, and I'm just like, you know what I need to make myself feel better? I need a warm, hot chocolate. I need that. And that is your mental health, really listening to those internal needs. And so I'll pause there because I'm sure that Hilda might want to share a little bit more about her perspective, and I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you covered it all, but yeah, it's like what we do. It's basically who we are. Mental health really is what we see in others is mental health. And mental health is really like an umbrella over even our physical health, because we are seeing in recent research that our physical health affects our mental health and vice versa. Mental health can also affect our physical health because trauma gets stored in our body. So mental health is really like the overcompassing of the wellness of who we are, how we feel, how we act, how we relate with others. Our life experiences go into our mental health.
I love that. I love that. And it is broad, and it is all encompassing all of these things that both of you mentioned. So the next question relates to our community and our culture. So how do you both feel that the Latinx culture values of resilience impede seeking mental health services? And this is a big question, because I know that when I was growing up, when I would say, and when I struggled with depression early on in my teens, but I didn't know that I was depressed. I just thought that that's the way it was. And I also realized, once I came across what anxiety was and what panic attacks were, I realized that I had those since I was a teenager, never knowing. I didn't know until my 30s, because it was normal. It was normal for me to live in this state. And when I would share it with my family or my mom or relatives, they were like, se te quita, ya olvídate, like cuando yo tenía tu edad, ¿tú crees? A mí ni me preocupaban esas cosas, se te quita rápido. So it was almost like within the culture, I was being told, don't think about it, don't worry about it, it isn't real. And then when I hit rock bottom, when I actually had a massive panic attack, I didn't know what it was. I came to the conclusion that what I had been brought up to believe just simply wasn't so. Not right or wrong or indifferent, that's just the way that my family structure was. And I'm not saying that within all of the Latino culture that's how it is, but for the most part, I saw it with all of my family friends. This is to include my Colombian friends, my Puerto Rican friends, my Panamanian friends. It was almost culturally the same across the board. So what is both your takes on how is it impeding, how is our culture impeding us really seeking mental health services? Dr. Lisette.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, trying to figure out where to take turns here. But there's so many nuances to when we talk about mental health and wellness. And with this, we also have to talk about the stigma, right? So when we talk about the reason that maybe people will say, no, eso se te va a pasar, like just pray on it, just anything else. It all goes back to, well, what are your perspectives around asking for help, around that independence, around what you need to do, one. But it's also the stigma around, well, if I ask for help, can I trust the system that I'm asking for help in? When people come from different countries where you couldn't trust the medical system, where if you would go into the spaces, you weren't sure whether or not this information would be confidential or not. Some folks have, varied immigration statuses, and they might be really reluctant to seek that support because what will happen to me if I do that? The accessibility is also a big part of it. Sometimes, someone is a monolingual Spanish speaker and they may live in a more rural area and they may not have access to a Spanish-speaking therapist. And that's why I'm such a big fan of us being able to provide more virtual services, because I used to live, when I was in Oregon for my doctoral program, I was in one of the community mental health centers where I provided Spanish services. And my clients who I worked with would drive sometimes an hour, 2 hours, because we were the closest center that had any bilingual clinicians. Wow. And so I think a big part of it is also the access in the communities that you are in. So it's the belief system around, can we trust these systems? And then it's how accessible are these systems, right? And so those are just some initial parts that influence how we perceive mental health, especially as a Latinx community, and how we'll access these services. But there's more to that. And so Hilda, will you share a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That I think when we talk about the stigma, like we're just scratching the surface today. Yeah. And I think one of the things I see the most is, so we as a Hispanic community, we value resilience. We value this idea that as a people, like we have gone through some hard things. Like if we look at these Hispanic countries and their history, right, there's trauma there. Like there's all kinds of generational cultural trauma. And so as a people, we value, like, we're going to get through this. Vamos a seguir andando. However, And that's celebrated even within our family culture, right? Like I remember growing up and my dad telling me like, we don't quit. O sea, no nos vencemos, and we keep going when we get into hard things. And I think, and that's important. Resilience is super important. However, that also prevents us from seeking mental health because it's almost our pride. Like it's just this idea that if I ask help, that I'm not resilient, or if I ask help, no, I'm not like strong enough or capable enough, or like our whole culture celebrates us trying to like pull up our pants and get through it. And that in of itself keeps us from getting more help when we need it. And right, resilience, the beautiful part of resilience is not that we will never go through hard things or that we have to suck it up, but rather resilience is us being able to bounce back when we go through hard things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just this, it's a beautiful, it's like, if it's a balance. We walk the line of saying like, yeah, we can do this and we're capable, but also resilience is also saying like, I need a little bit more help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember, growing up in a situation where one time when I was in high school, my dad had broken his finger at work and he came home like that. And I remember, looking through the door with my mom, was all like, nomás ponte un Band-Aid. And then se fue a trabajar así, he went to work like that. And I remember thinking as a young kid, thinking, oh, qué trabajador, like didn't even go to the doctor, didn't even take a Motrin or anything, And so these images stuck with me. So of course, when I got older, I was like, yeah, suck it up and do this. And so it had become this normal way of being, and not really, realizing until later on that these were, the consequence of that was overworking, overdoing, and suppressing a lot of my needs, my personal needs. And I know que no solamente soy yo, pero que it's within, like we're all saying it's a cultural thing. So these are wonderful stories of how we can, number one, pay attention to what is holding us back. What are some tools that both of you can share on how we can get out of that? Como sacudimos de eso with still honoring our culture but doing it different so we don't continue this pattern that isn't helping us. Dr. Lucette.
Yes, thank you. I want to highlight, there was a comment on here that says pride is such a disruptor. And, when we think about the different values that people hold, it absolutely, right? When you're really prideful and you have to kind of like begin to let go of that, to begin to ask for help, it's beginning to recognize that asking for help does not make you weak. Asking for help is to supplement the strengths that you already have and to enhance that. What it does, it helps increase your access to knowledge, resources that you were just not aware of before. We don't know what we don't know. And when we don't ask for help, we'll never know what the other options that are available to us. And so part of beginning to challenge that and building that resilience and building that is being more open to building that community for yourself and building that support. We are human and we crave connection. And when we have that connection, that builds our resilience. Because when we go to our social support, we don't just go to them to celebrate. We don't just go to them to tell them all the amazing ways that our life is going. There is also, who do you talk to when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling stressed, when you need a little bit of extra support? Not support of, se te va a pasar, you'll get over it, don't worry about it, but just someone who will listen in that moment, let you grieve for a minute and saying, I'm overwhelmed, and say, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Why don't you take a moment to rest? And then you come back to it when you feel ready.
Yes, absolutely. Ida, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I really feel like Dr. Lizette really hit it on the head, and it's so ironic to me because even within our culture, we value connection, right? I remember my dad like meeting people at the gas station up the street, and then they become friends, and like 2 weeks later they're at Thanksgiving with us. Just like this idea of just like bringing people in, and so as a culture, we already value connection, and it's so now it's like how can we take advantage of that and start a new conversation with our connections about what we need and celebrating that we have those people in the first place. A lot of people don't, and we value that naturally. And so how do we take advantage of that and having a different conversation? I remember a couple years ago, I talked to my dad and I got into it. And that's very unlike us. We don't really fight very much, but we had a really serious conversation and it really changed our relationship. And it really was about this. It was about when I call to to tell you about stuff going on in my life. I just want you to listen. I just want you to tell me that like it's going to be okay. I know that I can get through it. Like that is not the issue. It's like I just want to connect with you and I want you to hear me. And it's so funny now whenever we talk, if he's doing that with me, he'll call me out if I'm not doing it. Like if I'm not the one listening, he'll be like, "¿Te acuerdas esa vez?" You know, and it's really about how can we have that conversation with those that we love and say like, "Hey, I need you to hear me out. I need you to just be there with me and know that that is like the greatest invitation I could give you looking into my life is for you to sit with me instead of like trying to push me through or like get me to overcome."
Mm-hmm. Wow, I love that. Someone on LinkedIn is asking a question. How do our religious beliefs help us or prevent us from being mentally healthy? That's an interesting question. I think I want to definitely give it a shot here. In terms of religion, even within our culture, I grew up Catholic and then became Protestant Christian later. And faith has always been a really big part of me and who I am and my belief in a higher power. And for me, it was really the reason why I was able to overcome so many things growing up. If I did not believe that there was a higher power, I don't think that I would be here right now, to be honest. So that it did impact me. Some of the, for those of you who are out there who are children of alcoholics and have, within your immediate family, alcoholics as well, there's such a ripple effect that it just doesn't just affect you and it affects your children, the children of your children. It's this interesting dynamic and ripple effect with generation after generation. And unless someone within that generation stops it and decides that they're going to do life different, it can be pretty terrible. And for me, my belief in God was a big reason why, like I said, I'm here. Hilda, what is your take on that, on answering that question?
I think that we have to hold it in balance. I do think that religion can be very helpful. I grew up as a believer, as a Christian, and so that has been really a driving force for my own life and just overcoming things. But I also know that if I need brain surgery, I'm not going to go to my sacerdote, right? Like that is not, like he's not going to be able to do anything. He can absolutely pray for me, but there's reason why science exists. There's reason why doctors exist. There's reasons for like even car mechanics, right? And so it's really about, I absolutely, research shows that prayer helps. Research shows believing in, if we're just talking on the science level, right? Like research showed that helps, but that can't be everything. And so when we hold so tightly to those things and are unwilling to seek other avenues of help, that's when it starts to it can become an issue. And I think, again, it comes back to our community, making sure we're surrounding ourselves with others that can help keep us in check a little bit, who can call things out in us when things are a little bit more beyond than just talking to your priest or talking to your, or praying, or, those things are so helpful. And I will as a believer, I would never disparage those things, but it is about like, hey, if I need extra help, being willing to do that and knowing that like our most higher powers do want good for us.
Absolutely. And I believe that you can have both. I'm a firm believer of what Dr. Gabor Mate, who specializes in trauma, says. And he says that religion can be a conduit to really gaining higher access to, your real true spiritual knowing. And, there is a difference. Religion is algo diferente and spirituality is algo diferente. So I think that within the culture, sometimes in la cultura, it's very hardcore religion. Yeah. But in reality, at the end of the day, it's really about your own personal spiritual walk. So I agree with you. There has to be that balance and that understanding that, in terms of belief systems and religion, it can be a conduit to something bigger in you. Dr. Lisette, what is your take on it?
Yeah, I think Hilda, you said so many good things there in terms of that connectedness. You can't just rely on your religious or spiritual beliefs. That wouldn't be enough. But what it does provide, it's hope. It provides hope, and hope is incredibly strong. And hope, when you have hope, that's part of what helps you build your resilience. That's part of what helps you really seek out that different opportunities and know that there is more. And so absolutely, I believe in the power of prayer to build hope. I believe in the having those spiritual beliefs, having that connection to a higher power absolutely helps with building that hope for folks. But it's also recognizing that in that hope, it's wonderful and it's helpful, but you also have to take matters into your own hands, into what is in your control to change, instead of just waiting for change to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Thank you. So both, and I just took that question porque apareció allí. Dije, let me ask. And so one of the other questions that we have here is, how do we manage our family members who make remarks that dismiss our experience? So for example, last year I was going through a really tough time with, I'm going through premenopause. I'm 46, so I'm feeling a lot of interesting things in my body, and I'm just like, ¿qué es esto? And then nobody in my family, and all the women, it's all women in my family, 6 women, nadie habla de eso. And like menopause is a real deal. It's a real thing. I'm not embarrassed to talk about it. I'm 46. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and then I tell my mom, no, mom, no me siento bien, or whatever. Después se te quita eso, se te pasa, ya te olvidas. And I felt like so shocked, because I thought, well, this is some serious stuff going on with me. Now I'm laughing about it, right? Because I did, I had to do my own research, and I believe in functional medicine, and, follow a lot of functional medicine doctors, and I'm doing the holistic route, and I'm taking herbs, and, I'm a prayer warrior. And so all these things go hand in hand, pero the fact that she dismissed me was really painful. And at the same time, I had to ask for forgiveness for her, and said, oh, pues, she's from a different generation y no entiende lo que está pasando aquí conmigo. So that I dealt with it by just honoring her, because she was my mama. And I said, pues, ¿qué puedo decir? No entiende lo que estoy pasando. And then I thought about it for myself. I'm like, imagínate, she had 6 girls and nobody ever listened to her. Who know, you know what I mean? So then I just felt more compassion. So that was my way to deal with it, feeling compassion for her, because she just wasn't really having, understanding what was going on with me. So Hilda, what is your take on that?
Oh my gosh, I just like totally blanked. I'm just like reading the comments. Remind me, but I'm just like,
how do you manage your family members?
I'm back on track now.
Like, no pasa nada.
I'm so sorry. I just like blanked. I'm like so excited to be here. But so I think like having the conversation, I think, that coming from a place of empathy is always going to be the first. That would solve so many world problems if we just came from a place of empathy, if we just like were kind to one another in that way. I think the first thing is being willing to have a conversation with our loved ones, right? Most of our loved ones want to have relationship with us. And if we were to give them the tools to be able to better do that, I think most of our family members would be willing to do that. And we do it in a really kind way. Hey, when you said that, it made me feel like this, right? Putting, we're not blaming them. We're not like doing any of that, but we're just letting them know that their actions do impact us. And this is how it made me feel. Mm-hmm. And then I think that the next part of that is like, oh, hey, they're not listening. They're not changing. They're not. So this is big. This is the hard part, right? This is where we either start setting boundaries with our loved ones. And let me tell you that that's not popular in Hispanic culture. Setting boundaries is not a thing. We don't do that. Everyone is in everyone's business. No importa. Like, it doesn't matter that I don't live in my father's house anymore. Que si él tiene una opinión, me lo va a dar. And so setting boundaries is not popular. However, we have to ask the question, at what cost? Yeah. When does it become too much for our own well-being, our own mental health? Is having the relationship being more detrimental to me than having it? And then being able to have like those maybe even harder conversations of saying, hey, if you're going to talk to me like this, like, we're not going to be able to, like, this is going to look a little different. And sometimes you don't even have to talk to them about it. It's like, hey, I'm not going to go to every family event now, because this is continuing.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. And that's so true, girl. I'm telling you.
It's a tough one. I'm not popular when that's the answer I give, because no one wants to do that. It's very hard work to be able to do that. And how can we be comfortable within ourselves to be able to set those boundaries, and know that that might cause a loss?
Yeah, I love that. So your take is definitely setting the boundaries and being very, with compassion and empathy and saying, hey, hasta aquí llego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Dr. Lisa, to close it up and wrap it up?
Yes. Thank you so much. And, I think that with setting boundaries, that this is something that's newer as a society, just generally accepting and normalizing that setting boundaries is important and it's helpful. And I always talk to folks around, when you set boundaries, you are communicating your needs to people.
Yeah.
You are saying, this is how I want to relate to you. This is how I want to connect. And this is what feels comfortable for me. And this is hard. It's especially hard within the Latinx expectations around even with gender roles, because what comes to mind, for example, is like, I'm the oldest in my family, I'm the for daughter of immigrants, and I was always expected to put everyone else ahead of me, to be very selfless, to prioritize everyone's needs. From being a little girl of, tu primo quiere jugar con ese juguete, you have to give it to him. There wasn't a, can you play with something else? No, someone else wants something that you have, and you have to give that up for them. And receiving that message really early on was, oh, you don't have control over what you get to do, and I will always just tell you what that is.
Oh, that's so true, girl. Oh my goodness.
That's the message we receive. And so as you grow older, you start to realize, I don't have to do these things. I have a choice. And for me to really take advantage of that choice, I have to voice that to others, because people can't read my mind, right? And so sometimes those boundaries are creating that physical space. Sometimes it's, I need space to just figure that out. And so someone asks you something you're uncomfortable with, maybe you stand up and you're like, I don't really want to talk about this right now. I'm going to go get myself another plate of food, or I'm going to get another tamal, whatever it is. I'm going to take some space from this. And so I think there's lots of wonderful resources out there that will help you learn how to start to set those boundaries and do it respectfully. Because I know respeto is super important. And I'm not here to go and offend my abuelita. I wouldn't want to do that. But I want to be able to express, like, abuelita, I want to love. I want to feel your love in this way. And this is how I feel most loved by you. And being able to voice that is so special.
Wow, this is such amazing insight. I just love it. Everything that you touched on, both of you just gave some amazing insight and just some great tools. I love having this conversation with both of you, because we need to have it. We need to have more of these conversations, and we need to be open about it. Y que no nos dé vergüenza, porque es real. And we help people when we discuss these things, because people who are watching this will go home, and guess what? They're going to talk about it during Christmas. They're going to talk about it during, the holidays when they get together. And this is why it's important, because, we need to share the knowledge. I'm a child of, I'm a first generation Mexicana, and I know that when I speak, other people around me listen and they learn, and it's important for us to do that. So I want to thank both of you, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, because Oscar is going to go ahead and have the next panelist on. And thank you so much for both your insight and your wisdom, and I look forward to doing this with you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think we're going to get there we go. Rocio.
I love it.
Oh my
Oye,
God.
Oscar, tantos tips, en serio. Like, I love it. Mira, tengo toda una página, and I'm going to read a few of them, okay? What is mental health? Like, even stress. Cómo platicamos entre familia, how we ignore things. One of the things that really came through to me is the fact that when we know better, we do better, ¿verdad? And we still honor that respeto, that familia, the way that we grew up, and say, maybe there's a way that I can communicate. Mira, I'm on fire. Hasta escalofrío me da. I'm like, on fire with the topic, and I know you are too. Like, what's impeding us? I'm going to read a few more, and then I want to hear your insights. Se te va a pasar, the fact that we are so passive in a way, porque los da vergüenza, like, how do we connect from a way of, like, let's own our humanity. ¿Sabes qué? Somos seres humanos. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to grow from those mistakes. Y créeme, hay veces que Rocío parece que she's running around with her hair on fire. Y ya sabemos de cuáles estamos hablando, ¿verdad? Entre eso. Pero like to know that somos gente de confianza. We're that people of trust and faith and really connect with one another. Y sabiendo que, there's different generational trauma. There's cultural trauma. There's things that we have become so resilient. Y a veces que lo apagamos, we tame it down and we pretend that it's okay. I love hearing this story about the broken finger. Ahí, ¿verdad? And like to know, ¿sabes qué? Hay veces que sí. We're running around with things that we can help and yet we don't because we ignore them. And I'm gonna name a couple more, like understanding the difference between cultural religion and science, like to really know qué podemos hacer ahí, feeling compassion, like let's tap back into our humanity, tap back into knowing that there's empathy, porque todos, we have been through our own things. Y ahí te lo dejo, ¿no, amigo? Porque Rocío se puede quedar aquí hablando todo el día. This topic is so important.
It really is. And, I just want to, again, thank Adriana, Dr. Lisette, and Nila for just an amazing conversation here. And I mean, honestly, I could have listened to them just keep going on and on because they were just touching on some very, very important topics. Ila said something and I wrote it down, and she said, resilience is saying I need more help. That is so true. And it takes me back to the comment that Adriana made about her dad, finger. And you know what it comes down to, at least the way my mind interprets it, is that being chingon is asking for help. It's not printing it on a t-shirt. It's not printing it on your Canva image and posting it on Instagram and saying that you're chingon or chingona. It's asking for help. Also, Dr. Lisette, she says also hope helps you build resilience. Hope helps you build resilience. And again, they just amazing, incredible conversation here. So I just want to once again just thank them. Drop your comments, folks. Thanks, Adriana, Dr. Lisette, and Ila for just an incredible conversation. And we're going to turn it over back to Angelica because we have another incredible speaker coming up, and he's going to be specifically addressing the topic of mental health as it relates to men. So, Angelica, it's yours.
Yes, let me go ahead and get our next speaker up here. There we go. Well, hello, everyone. I am back, and I'm here to introduce our next speaker. Sergio Garcia Guyan is an intuitive and integrative MD and Master of Science in Theta Healing. He works with individuals as well as organizations to reconnect them with their inner wisdom and help them find their potential and achieve an empowering and fulfilling healthy life. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Angelica. That's wow. This last conversation was so rich, and it's like I just want to keep listening to you, all of you, and even the remarks from Oscar and everybody else. So the yes, I wanted to just to first. It was so exciting, all this conversation, like make me think about many things. So let's start with a little meditation, a little bit of that. Let's, if you don't mind, just to feel your body. I want to just ring. And if you close your eyes, it's okay. If you want to keep it open, it's okay as well. And just feel your body and the center of your body. And just relax a little bit. Or just feel the relaxation of your body as you are sitting in the place you are sitting, and feel the weight of your body. And let's do a little journey. Let's enter in your heart. And from that, just with your creative imagination, let's start traveling a little bit to the center of the earth. As the earth has consciousness, just feel the harmony, the equilibrium, whatever is there for you, and the energy. Now, you may feel like this energy is coming to your body. You may feel it, in your feet, in the space between your toes. Just notice that as you breathe in and you breathe out with this, how this energy is coming up in your bones, in your muscle, and your skin. Just feel it. Feel the emotions. How this energy is coming up and up your belly, to your chest, to your head, to your face. And from that, you may feel the whole body full of energy. Breathe in and breathe out, and just now you are going to create with your own imagination something in the top of your head. You may feel now a little weight up there, like somebody put a coin or the thumb. And from that, you're going to create a little small part of you, a little version of yourself, a small one. You just want to just free with wings, with maybe a spaceship or something like that. You're going to just travel now upwards to the outer space. And now you're going to evoke this sense of curiosity, of exploration, this amazing energy, this mood or aptitude to explore, to be curious about what is there. And you start just traveling upward all the way. You may cross layers of light until you get into a big one, a white light. You're going to enter. You may feel now your whole body transforming into this white light. There is no shapes, just sensations, emotions, all of them in equilibrium and balance. And from that, you can see backward. You can see back the earth. This, like Carl Sagan used to say, this blue dot into the space. You may realize like whatever is there in the past, in the present, in the future, every human being, every living being, conscious being we know about has lived in there and is going to live. And from there, you may see no boundaries, limitations. You see the same air like you are now, wherever you are now, you are breathing the same air I am breathing now in here. The same air like the dinosaurs breath, and is going to keep going into the future. And from this place, you may get back to your physical body, into this white light. In this place, you may see, you may feel everything gets in harmony. Every worry is going to dissolve. Just like that. No effort, just the effort to be present, to be there in you and yourself. You're going to breathe in and breathe out again, just with this. And you're going to evoke the feeling and the emotion of gratitude towards yourself. Feeling complete. As your mind, your body, your soul are just one. As you breathe in, breathe out, you feel every cell of yourself, the intelligence of your cells, your mind, your physical body, and the organs in it. In the next breathing, you might expand that energy to your community, to your family, perhaps first your community, your beloved ones. You may see them as well through this connection, without shape, just the presence of them, the community you belong, the communities you belong to, the countries, the continents, the earth. You see there's no difference. It's just presence. feeling just complete, as nothing is, like nothing is left. It's just you, whole, fulfilled, complete. And as you feel that interconnection with everybody, within you and out there and outside, just you're going to get back to your physical body. Just feel again your feet, your weight of your physical body, the movement of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out, the sound around you, and keeping that emotion, that sentiment of being completed, of being fulfilled. Just you can start opening your eyes. You can see around you. Yes, for bringing you in. Well, I was making a lot of notes about what to talk today, especially mental health is one thing, and then focusing that into the mental health is other thing. Then put it into the Latino community is other one, which is very, very interesting, very rich, and I think people can write books about that. And one of the things I first is about mental. What is the mind? The mind. One of the there is a lot of definitions, but the one I like the most is the one from Daniel Siegel, a psychiatrist from Harvard, and because he took the time to he was questioning himself. Was like, what? There is a lot of experts about mind, but we work through the mind, but nobody's putting together this. So he basically the definition of him is talking about a process of energy and information, gathering, processing, and making action about that. So, and it's a full body experience. I mean, the mind is not the brain. It's the mind is the whole us. Through this nervous system, we are experiencing the life by itself. But the mind is beyond that. And the funny thing is, like in the past, I realized like that fits very much the definition of the in some traditions. They consider like we have 7 bodies: the physical body, the mental, the energy body, the astral, and so on, like 7 one of them. But when he's mentioned, that sounds a little bit like energy body from Hindu tradition, which makes me think a lot about. And also, he talks a lot with other. I think it's Jack Cornfield, also like somebody who is specialized in Buddhism, psychology of Buddhism, and so and this idea and how to see the mind in that way is like I would say it's like the connection, and it's like the soul. Actually, maybe it's better to mention the approach of this soul and integrated therapies is because there is a lot of components we have in our lives, in our body, our mind, and even in the physical body, we have a lot. And as we specialize in different directions, when we try to tap into in the way holistically, all of them, it seems a little chaotic. So we have to be in a center. So the center we look for is the soul. We believe when I say soul, I mean consciousness. The consciousness is the basic part, is that what we define us, and then from the consciousness, the mind is just expanding, creating, and the physical body. And if we think about the different decisions we're taking every day from we were born, even from our ancestors, we see like practically the mind is creating the body in many ways. Even most of the diseases have a mental component. If not, they started from there. And many of these things are coming from a long time, and it's not new for just we are somehow, as we are creating our own life, we're having those influences from everywhere. So in this regard, it's important to consider like the consciousness, or in this case the soul, is manifesting the mind, and the mind the physical body. And so now if I go directly to the topic for men, it makes me think about my grandfather. My brother, by the way, is a psychologist, and one of my best friends, psychiatrists. And I remember when my brother came to my grandfather, and my grandfather asked, "Oh, what are you doing?" And asked me first. And I said, I studied medicine. He said, "Oh, that's good. That's good that you're doing medicine." And I said, and asked to my brother, "And so what about you?" And he said, um, I am psychologist. And what is that? I know, when people have problems, I talk with them. I say, well, why should I talk with somebody about my problems? This is my private life. So it was so funny because he couldn't even understand that. And so in that, even the mental health, and I will say there is something like you before Lisette and we're mentioning about the trauma. And one of the things I see a lot is like trauma relate migration related trauma is so common, and it's so prevalent. And even there is some part of that, like trauma was even before, especially forced migration is I think most of the people migrate because they need to do it. There is of course a few people that are doing that because business, and they relocate, and even we call ourselves like repatriate, but actually it's the same. No, it's migration. It's migrate to other place. And does this simple thing change to your whole life and your social life and everything to be another place is for by itself, even if it's in the same country, can be traumatic for people. And in regards of men, I think Oscar were mentioning like he was translating from his mother, and this is very interesting because even for parents, for both, obviously it can be something more for men, like they are not anymore the head of the family, and they are delegating that to a child. It can be traumatic for them, or can be less stressful because they are not anymore in control of the family, like as the ancestors used to be. And even in domestic violence, I was volunteering a couple of sometimes in the shelter here. Now the past was called women's shelter. They changed the name because there were some men coming to and I am talking in the program related with Hispanic community. And there were some men coming to looking for help, and sadly, most of the time they were met with hesitation and say, "Wow, I mean, this is for women; it's not for men." I mean, men don't have that, but yes, unfortunately, men also have partners with abusive partners, and which is it's sad, but it's happening too. And so most of the life in the men, even physically. The testosterone is very important for us, and when you have a low esteem and and few confidence and everything, the testosterone is lower, and so even it's the hormone of the strength, and even it's part of the with other hormones, is part of the to be active, to be proactive, and that also is affecting, just because you are doing something like you can't do anymore, especially if you are, I mean, you're programmed for thousands of generations to be the head of your family, and now you can't perform that. So whatever is happening now in many societies is it's arranging everything. So I think when we are kind with ourselves, we can understand better ourselves, we can perform much better. And that is some of the things, because one of these the integrative approach is taking account everything matters, everything. It doesn't matter. It is about the food, it's about your physical body, which you can see, for example, why you're eating. If you are eating proper food, and by the way, junk food doesn't exist. Exists junk and food. No, there is no something in between. And even knowing, I think in the past mentioned something about as we know something, we can do better. And this I was thinking, for example, I was for some reason I was thinking of how put an example, like how our traditions or whatever new traditions we're getting from other culture are affecting our health and mental health. And I was thinking, when you're looking in watching a television, by the way, watching sport doesn't mean you are doing sports. It means something else, but no, you are not doing sports. And for example, think about it. Like, for example, you have a gather of guys. I mean, in this case, men, but I can be women too. And they're watching, football. Can be soccer, can be other sport. And you have all this adrenaline, testosterone, and your body is in fire to do something, preparing to do something, because it used to be like that. When you were in a battle, you were prepared for be the next one to enter into the game. But instead of that, you are eating uh, high carbs food, uh, fat, and alcohol, and then you are dooming your senses through alcohol. Obviously, you have to do that, because otherwise you can hold that. You have to do something when you arouse all your energy up. So makes sense, you get drunk, but when you're drunk, you are getting drunk, you are dumbing all your emotions and sensations and everything, so you are not conscious anymore there. It's somebody else, but you are somewhere else. You're not in the presence of gathering. So even in the different meetings we are having now and in the next month, is everything you are doing is affecting your mental health. If you are eating properly, and you can modify the culture. And even and some of it, where somebody was mentioning about to be proud of something, and that's something I started doing. I know this a few times, I think, left for me in this, but this is a huge topic. I think hopefully it makes sense of something I am saying, but just to mention something about to be proud, I start noticing, like, okay, maybe we can do a practice. Just, wherever you are now, is just close your eyes, and just think what you feel proud of, whatever it is, your nationality, is your gender, and feel your body through that. It's like, maybe you imagine yourself in a place where you are stepping up, and and you say, I am proud of my family. I am proud of my nationality, my identity. Just feel how you feel, your energy. How is that? Now just get back to your body. And now you're going to say but now I am grateful, or I am appreciative of being Mexican, being American. I am grateful because my culture. I am grateful because my family. And feel that. Feel how's that? And now open your eyes, and do you notice some difference? And in my case, everything changed. To be proud of something makes me a little bit to be defensive. Like, it's unique. It's unique to be grateful too. But in this case, it's something, a more social thing. Like, it's this way I'm feeling is the best of the best. But being grateful of your culture, of who you are, or whatever you identify with, it has something else, something that you can build up from there. Something that you can share. It doesn't matter if the other person is agree, or, I mean, it's have different set of beliefs. It's just easier energy. And some people may say, as Rocio was mentioning also about the being grateful, or being and the all compassionate and kind. The good thing is, like, we can learn that even if we don't feel it. We can learn that, and I think we are in a very special time when we can definitely practice, and even in meditation, just to reframe that, maybe something like you makes more sense for you, because even some people get a little tired now and say, oh, this thing about compassion and about kindness, but it's not about the word. It's like, just sit yourself and feel it. Feel compassion. It's there. I mean, everybody will have that, but we sometimes will get caught with the ideas of the emotions and everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dr. Sergio, first of all, thank you for starting us off with a meditation. I saw some comments here from some folks that, they need to learn how to meditate. I am one of those. I saw Angelica comment that when she meditates, she falls asleep. That's me too. but your meditation exercise was also a reminder to me how important it is to pause and be one with ourselves and our surrounding. And, even for that brief moment, it just brought a sense of peace to myself. Because I'm a very driven person. I'm constantly on the go, go, go. And so that was a very powerful way that you started. The other thing too, and our next speaker is going to be talking more about this, but you touched upon the importance of talking to others about our problems. And for us, man, ay Dios mío, that is one of the things that, again, I'm guilty of that, that I was like, why am I going to talk to someone else about my problems? They're my problems. So thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, thank you for bringing your corazón into this. I really felt it. I felt the calmness and the grounding and the love, the compassion, the empathy, and to really have the real conversation con nuestra gente, where a lot of the time we're avoiding it because of cultura, because of gender, and because the way we're supposed to show up, como pensamos that we're supposed to show up.
Yeah.
Pero sí, hay que traernos y hay que, I love doing the guided meditation, just listening to your voice, como que me calmó, me trae aquí en este momento, and I'm like, whew, I feel centered, I'm grounded, and what a beautiful thing. So thank you for bringing
thank you.
everything that you do into this.
Yes.
A ver qué sí, Oscar,
Yes.
¿Dónde vamos? ¿Qué vamos a hacer ahorita?
Yes, no, thank you. So, folks, what a great, again, thank you very much to Dr. Sergio Garcia Guyan. And we have our last speaker, and who's, as you can see, she's going to be talking about why talking about our problems outside the home is healthy. Ay, Dios mío. So,
nos escondemos, ¿verdad, Oscar? Nos escondemos. Queremos tapar ahí el sol con un dedo, right? We're going to cover that sun right there. We're like, pretend nothing's going on, ¿verdad?
I see. So, Angelica, it's yours.
Yes, thank you. Let's get Dr. Letty up here. Well, hello, everyone. And our next speaker is Dr. Letty Cavazos, is the founder and CEO of Canetta Center for Healing and Empowerment. Dr. Cavazos strives to lift Hispanic practitioners to provide culturally sensitive Spanish-speaking mental health services to the Hispanic community in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, and professional training to mental health providers across the country. Over to you, Dr. Letty.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me today. And what a wonderful conversation we're having. And that last conversation was so dear to my heart because my doctoral research was on male victims of domestic violence. So it is real, and it's something that we need to talk about for everyone. But I wanted to kind of talk about all the great things that everybody has already shared and kind of recap, and then talk about what the next steps are and why we should open up outside our home. And so, like everyone said, mental health is a crucial part of our overall health. Yet it's a topic that seems to be hushed a lot, when it comes up for discussion. And that's largely due to stigma that comes with mental health, especially in the Hispanic community. But the thing about stigma, it often prevents people from seeking treatment, which can further isolate them or worsen their conditions. And so in the Hispanic individuals may not seek treatment because they may not recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions or know where to find help. So we talked about that when you go to your mom or you go to your family and say, hey, I'm feeling a little depressed or I'm feeling a little not myself today, how we're just kind of dismissed and like, it's okay, you'll get over it, it'll be fine. And so really trying to help people see that this is a conversation that needs to be had. And so when we talk about the stigmas around
sharing your symptoms, typically people in the Hispanic community are often very private, and they may not want to talk publicly about the challenges at home. And this can lead to a lack of information or continued stigma in the mental health community, because we think that it's something that we shouldn't talk about. But because we don't talk about, we don't get the information to share with our loved ones, our children, our parents. Many of you may be familiar with the phrase "la ropa sucia se lava en casa," right? Which is, you don't air your dirty laundry in public. You keep that in the house. And so if you're not talking about it with other people, and you're only talking about it at home, and people at home don't really know what to do with it, your symptoms aren't really being addressed. And so we tend to not talk about our feelings as a community as a whole. And one step further than that, Latinas are expected to take care of their family instead of taking care of themselves first. And so self-care isn't even something that's brought up, because our job is to take care of the family, right? So some people don't seek treatment for mental illness out of fear of being labeled. And so we've talked about that, that they don't want to be like labeled as locals or bring shame to the family or unwanted attention to their families. And so they're more likely to turn to a family or friends when they have problems or feel anxious or depressed. They're also more likely to consult people from their church that we talked about previously. Some of the previous speakers brought that up, or a local healer. And what we know is that the faith community can be such a source of strength that we did talk about, but it also can be a source of distress, because those communities aren't well informed about mental illness. And so they may give bad advice, or they may give well-meaning advice that isn't adequate for the level of need that they have. And so we have to be very careful with, when people come to us, what advice is given in the community, and so what their belief system is at that point. So one of the things that we talked about, that some of the speakers talked about, was the barriers. And there's a lot of barriers for the Hispanic community to receive mental health services. And in the Hispanic community, the vulnerability to mental illness is the same as the general public, but they're receiving less care. And they face disparities in both access and quality of treatment. So that was something that was brought up too, that there aren't a lot of Spanish-speaking practitioners, and beyond Spanish-speaking, people that understand the culture. So we take a bigger look. More than half of the Hispanic young adults ages 18 to 25 with serious mental illness are not receiving treatment. Half of them are not receiving treatment. And this puts the community at higher risk and exacerbates their conditions and makes their symptoms worse. And so why are people not receiving help? We talked about both the access and the quality. Language can make communicating with providers very difficult. And if parents don't speak English, then they don't feel comfortable taking their child to get services, because they don't know really what's going on. And there's a difference between understanding the language and understanding the culture. And I think that is very relevant, because I had somebody tell me a story about someone who needed Spanish-speaking clinician. They went to the sessions and they weren't effective, and they came back and they said, yeah, they spoke Spanish, but they really didn't understand the culture because they weren't Hispanic. So they didn't know what I was talking about. So one example could be someone might describe that they're feeling like me duele el corazón, while this literally means my heart hurts, it's an expression of emotional distress. It's not that their chest hurts and that they need help from a doctor about chest pains. For immigrants who arrive undocumented, this is a fear that they don't seek services because they're afraid they're going to get deported or reported. And one of the things that many don't realize is that their children typically are eligible for health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. So they may not know about the eligibility, or they're afraid to register due to the fear of separation from their kids. So there's a lot of barriers that prevent people from wanting to seek out help. And understanding the culture, I think, is the biggest thing, like we talked about earlier, is as Latinos, we have a very strong family network, and family support can help alleviate the stigma of mental disorders, but it can also prevent us from going forward. So there's a significant disconnect between American models of psychotherapy and the needs and values of the Hispanic community. So when you think about all the models, which are usually Eurocentric, they have a strong emphasis on individual traits and independence, while the Hispanic community culture values family, unity, loyalty to friends and family, and one's role in the community. So it's kind of counterintuitive when you go to see a counselor and they're really trying to help you to be independent and find your voice, and your belief is like, I have this loyalty to my family, and I have this loyalty to my community. And so that's not something that seems to be cohesive. So in general, the Hispanic community doesn't talk about mental health issues, and many do not seek treatment because they don't recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. So we talked about that a little bit too, is that when you're feeling bad, then you'll get over it. It'll be okay. So the relationship and communication between a person in the mental health profession and the client is the key aspect for healing. And many Hispanics do not know that mental health information is confidential and cannot be shared with anyone without the patient's consent. And so that's one of the things that I find typically is that a lot of people don't understand that we are obligated to keep their information confidential, and that we cannot report them. We can't report them to that they're not documented. We can't share with their family. We can't share any of that information with anybody that they may feel will then know about what's going on. But on the flip side of that, we want to encourage the client to come in with their family, with their spouse, and so that they can better understand what's going on, so that they can support the client as they're going through treatment. So I want to leave you guys with 5 main points of why it's important to talk about mental health outside of the family. So the first one is to combat that mental health stigma that we see. So for example, some of us might avoid talking about mental health problems if we're worried about facing discrimination for it, or being treated differently by our loved ones in our community. But talking openly about mental health issues, including mental illness, can help break those barriers. So discussion helps us understand how common mental illness is, and provides us opportunities to correct those misconceptions and feel better about asking for help. So really being able to kind of break that stigma of what mental illness is, and understanding that mental illness and good mental health are two different things, right? And so the second point is to understand that you're not alone. And I think this is a huge one, because a lot of times when we're suffering independently, we're not really understanding that we're not alone in this, and that this is something that's common, and that a lot of people in the world are struggling with mental illness too. 1 in 5 adults in the US, or almost 47 million individuals, live with mental illness. And so that's a lot of people for you to feel alone, or that you have to go through this by yourself. I've worked a lot with victims of domestic violence, and for them to be able to meet other survivors and hear how they have similar stories, and that they're not going through this by themselves, or not crazy for feeling the way they do, is huge. That's why group is so effective, because knowing that you're not alone in this journey, and that other people can relate to what you've been through, what you're going through, how you're feeling, the symptoms that you're experiencing, helps it to be normalized. If we talk more about mental health, it could mean more of us can seek treatment. And being diagnosed with mental health disorder isn't a bad thing. It just makes it, it helps you understand what's really going on. So the third thing I want to talk about is talking about it outside will help to encourage care and support. And so although mental health disorders are increasing, not everyone seeks treatment for it that we talked about. There's a lot of people that don't. And so talking about mental health in general encourages us to seek treatment, especially once we realize that we're not alone. Millions of adults live with mental health issues in the US. And the more we talk about it, the more likely we'll feel comfortable seeking care and support. So we have to normalize it. I think that we're doing a better job of being more open about it, but in the Hispanic community, there's still a huge gap in our feeling comfortable talking about it and normalizing it. The fourth one is really serious, because the more you talk about it outside the home, the likelihood of lowering the risk of suicide. And so suicide is the leading cause of death in the United States. And so more than 50,000 people in the US completed suicide, including many, many, many young people. So among those between 10 and 34 years old, suicide was the second leading cause of fatalities. And here, I don't know how it is in the rest of the country, but here in DFW, we have seen a rise in adolescents that are completing suicides. And it is unfortunate. And if we talked more about it and we had more honest discussions, then we would be able to help them see that they're not alone in this process, and hopefully stop not just the completions, but the attempts, because the help is there. So we need to break the stigma surrounding mental health, so people feel more comfortable coming to us and talking about it, so that they can be encouraged and not, try to work through those feelings of suicide or dealing with the severe mental illness without reaching out for help. And the last point I want to make is to maintain good mental health. That's why we talk about it outside of our home, because mental illness isn't the only aspect of mental health like we talked about. Discussing mental health overall can help encourage us maintain our mental well-being on a regular basis. So it can start with self-care and really recognizing when we're feeling overwhelmed or we have too much on our plate, And that's where it all starts. And then recognizing when our symptoms are getting a little bit out of control. And we probably need to get some professional help to help us kind of realign and talk about it. And when we talk about counseling, we always say that this counseling isn't just for people with severe mental illness. It's to help you become the best version of yourself. And so going to someone to help sort through those feelings and learn how to develop skills to cope when you're overwhelmed is nothing to be ashamed of. It's actually a strength that you bring to the table so that you can be a better parent, a better partner, a better employee. And that's what we all want, is to be better for ourselves and for others, right? So maintaining good, sound mental well-being is an important part of staying healthy overall, enjoying and improve quality of life. So talking about mental health helps to improve communities by helping members maintain positive mental health. And a community of people with good mental health creates a more productive and collaborative environment. So when you think about what that means, it's like we want to make sure that the community is healthy and the community is doing well, but that starts in the home. That starts with the families. That starts with the neighbors, the friends, and then bringing it out to the community. So I think overall, we're going to be wrapping it up, but I think overall, I wanted you guys to walk away with those 5 points, to know that it's really important that we break the stigma, that we understand the barriers and try to break down those barriers, and that we try to normalize mental health, and so that people feel comfortable talking about it outside the home and are able to seek the help when they need it without any shame or guilt brought onto themselves or their families. So I guess one of the last things I want to talk about before we run out of time, we have a couple minutes, is really how do we encourage the community? We talked about how a lot of people just kind of go to their church or go to their friends and don't understand it. And I think it's important as practitioners and professionals that we encourage people to come out and do workshops and talk about what is mental health and how does it help you, and understanding that there are cultural barriers that are going to stop us from moving forward, but to seek help. But at the end, if they're open-minded and are able to really see that there is help and that we want the best for ourselves and our family, then it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to see that things are going to be a little bit different than maybe what the beliefs you grew up with. There's going to be opportunities to not just empower yourself, but empower your families. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Wow.
Dr. Litti. Really, really appreciate the insights that you gave us and the 5 points there, and also something that you touched upon in the early on in your talk about cultural competency. So important. That's actually one of the things that I focus on as it relates to my career in leadership training, the culturally relevant. So thank you very much. And the other thing too, Rocio, that I'm loving is in the comments, there's a lot of important comments going back and forth, but also some networking and sharing some resources, some additional readings, books, etc., and so forth. And that's also, I think, the benefit of doing an event like this through LinkedIn Live, is that you help foster networking and just spreading the word out. So
Oscar, me encanta la conversación. I really love the conversation. The fact that people are going back and forth, that people are sharing, hey, you know what? I haven't meditated. I'm not good at meditating. You know, maybe, you know, Lázaro who said, I go after that next tamal, you know, finding ways to communicate. Oye, ya me hicieron que me diera hambre aquí. And I'm just loving it. And, you know, going back to Dr. Leti and having that conversation that we're not alone. Porque siempre creemos que estamos solos, right? Like we think we're the
True.
only person that's going through it, and there's like so much shame, and there maybe feel like, ¿sabes qué? There's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. We are human beings having a human experience. Y todos we all go through our own things at different phases in our life, and we don't need to go through it by ourselves. You know, vamos a ser honestos, you know, how much time do we reach out to each other, even as partners? Y cómo podemos tener esa conversación with each other. So let's go ahead and bring everyone back in. We're going to have a final moment with our amazing, amazing speakers. Thank you so much for contributing to the conversation, you know, teniendo esa conversación auténtica with everyone. And we would love to hear one final takeaway, one tip.
Yes, no, thank you again very much. And you know, why don't we just start off here? I'll just Adriana, just one last final takeaway that you want to leave us with. Any thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. And I suppose that the final takeaway would be that we do need to, as practitioners, as clinicians, as you know, leaders in the community, to go out there and do the workshops and, you know, do the presentation and do this kind of have this kind of platform, because the more we talk about it, the better we're all for it. So thank you for everyone. Everyone did magnificent, amazing, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, Hilda, I think you'll need to unmute yourself.
I think the biggest takeaway is that when we want to see generational change, the change starts within us. And when we start to do our own work, like naturally our children will start doing the work, and their children will have, and it changes our whole culture when we start doing the work for ourselves and being the ones to not be afraid to step out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So well said. I love that. If you want generational stage, it starts with us. Thank you very much, Hilda. Doctora Leti.
I think just understanding that there's so much more than just knowing the language, but understanding the culture and how that impacts all of us. And whether it's a child, adult, or even, you know, with Dr. Sergio's talk about men, like everybody has a different experience and belief, and it's our job to kind of help them navigate that and to be healthy and the best versions of themselves.
Yes, thank you. And Doctora Lisette.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this on. This is such a needed event, and I loved all the participation, everyone here. Thank you again. My biggest takeaway, and I think just from hearing everyone as well, is, you know, therapy is for everyone. We talk about doing that growth, doing that change, challenging yourself, finding a therapist who's a good fit for you, who is culturally sensitive, not just the language, you know, as my colleagues were mentioning, you know, therapy is for everyone, and finding that right fit is so important. And so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Thank you. And Dr. Sergio.
Well, thank you so much. It's so rich, all this conversation. And thinking of just one takeaway is like, I don't know, I'm sure if I have like 10, I would like to mention. Okay, just for the time, of course. I will say that in contemplative medicine, one of the pillars of these teachings is about self-care. And self-care is the way we take care of others.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And it's in the meditation, it was one of my intents we start with us and we end with us. Mm-hmm. And if we need a psychiatrist, we go for psychiatrist. We need Reiki, we go for Reiki. A massage can be amazing for many people. And it's part of your whole mental health. And yes, I mean, now in the posadas and all the parties are coming, just, you know, remind yourself, like, we are conscious beings. We're smart, we're intelligent, and we can transmit that with everybody around us. So yeah, eat well and drink moderadamente.
Moderadamente. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Angelica, you're not going to get away here, okay? You probably thought I was
¿Verdad?
going to calling you. Yes, I know. It's my daughter,
A ver, ¿qué
so
piensas? ¿Qué piensas?
I know her. But Angelica, thank you. First of all, thank you again very much for all the behind the scenes work. It's you're probably today we're like an octopus, with multiple hands all over the place, bringing people on, taking them off, and making it run very smoothly. So thank you very much. But let's hear from you. Any final thoughts from you as well?
Oh, thank you for putting me on the spot. Yes. Well, thank you to all our speakers and our hosts, of course. And I think everyone's I know it's a good session when I there's all the bobbleheads and I see all your guys' heads going back up and down. And so that's always a good sign. But also I think a common theme here is that the change begins with you. And that's a scary thought that your mental health you can see that as a problem, but you're also the solution, and that's very empowering. And so with that in mind, you have yourself and you're not alone and you're your own solution. And that change may be scary, but you are your hope. And so thank you all for your words of wisdom, and especially around these holidays.
Yes, no, thank you, everyone, thank you, and again, Rocio, thank you very much for helping, put this together. And to all the speakers, you did a phenomenal job. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this event. From my standpoint, hey, Merry Christmas, because I celebrate Christmas. Okay, I'm still accepting presents even after Christmas. Okay, I vienen los Santos Reyes. Okay. Happy New Year.
Celebramos todo el año.
Yes. So. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. And again, do have very happy holidays and happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.